Every person on the internet, from Reddit to the depths of College Confidential, has a different opinion on what SAT resources you should be using. It's like the only thing people can agree on in these SAT videos is that you need to study, but nobody will tell you what to study. There's always like 4 tips followed by an ad for a $3,000 prep class. Look at me, look at me. My room is the size of my wingspan. I live in a box. Do you think I have the facilities to give already rich people even more money? Let's cut through the clutter. I surveyed 50 high schoolers who each scored over a 1550 on their SAT to figure out which are the best resources to prepare. Everything in this video is either free or budget friendly, so you can keep spending your money on $12 boba. Pink salt strawberry cream tea, by the way. Undefeated. I can put you on to more than just SAT tips, alright? Resource number 1, please don't click off the video yet. I have to say this for anyone who's still living under a rock. The Bluebook exam app by College Board is the only place you can take official SAT practice tests from College Board that are essentially identical to the real exam. I could personally explain this to you, but I found a review on the App Store that I think summarizes it beautifully. Posted on February 28th by Skibbity Grandma 123. Bluebook, the standardized test app, because taking a high-stakes exam wasn't stressful enough. Now you get to wrestle with technology too. This app locks down your device tighter than Fort Knox, blocking the internet, shutting down other apps, and making sure you can't even think about multitasking. It's basically the digital equivalent of a proctor glaring at you over their glasses, waiting for you to breathe too loudly. The user experience, a mix of mild panic and technological distrust. One moment you're typing away, the next you're staring at a blank screen wondering if the app just crashed or if it's testing your patience instead. The built-in timer ticks down ominously, making every keystroke feel like a dramatic movie moment. Except instead of saving the world, you're just trying to finish a 5-paragraph essay before the time mercilessly runs out. That's crazy work. Here's the bottom line. Since this resource actually comes from College Board, and these practice tests are made using previous exam questions, these are the best tests you can be using. They are incredibly accurate in predicting where your current score is at. You want to use every single one of these before your exam as practice, but you don't have that many, so use them sparingly. Try to use resources from other textbooks and other things we're going to talk about in this video beforehand, and then as you're approaching the actual exam, then you can start taking one of these every single week to really drill in on those concepts that you might be missing. Our next resource is the College Board SAT Suite Question Bank. This should be your #1 go-to place to do your practice and your studying. Links for all the resources in this video are in the description on my website. I'm going to show you really simply the best way to use this. So first, you're going to be on the main website page, click on Find Questions, and then here it lets you pick what assessment, right? So obviously we're looking for the SAT. What test? Let's go with math for now. Pick a topic. I think algebra is fine. Search, and now it gives you this list of 519 questions in the set that you can go ahead and use for practice. So if we just click on the first one here, pulls up the question, and on the right hand side you have the answer, rationale, you get the gist. Now there's a couple important things for you to keep in mind here. First of all, what settings should you be using? Here we have like a difficulty selector, which is useful. Here we have exactly what skills you want to be looking at, so if there's any weaknesses you can pick them. This is a really, really important one though, this exclude active questions. Now what active questions means is that these questions that we're looking at here in this bank are actually being used in the Bluebook practice tests from the previous resource. So what you don't want to do is accidentally go ahead and like read some of these questions that you would naturally see when you're doing those practice tests, because now those tests aren't accurate of where you're truly at score-wise. So when you're doing your practice here, definitely make sure to check this box. It's in your best interest. And this should be pretty obvious, but if you scroll down, you can see how many pages worth of questions we actually have to go through, right? It's quite a bit, and we're just focusing on algebra here. There are literally thousands of questions across this bank for you to practice with. It's a great way to get your score up. This thing over here, right, new includes state standards, completely useless. It's like something for educators to like pick about meeting like your learning goals. Don't even bother. Now there is one trick with using this question bank that I think people really sleep on. If we just go back here, instead of picking the SAT, you have the option to actually just pick the PSAT, NMSQT, right? Or PSAT 10 and do the same thing, right? Let's say math. We're interested in algebra, search again. And now we have additional questions on the same topic that you can use for practice. The thing about the SAT versus the PSAT is that they are fundamentally the same exam. They test the same concepts, they have the same categories. The difference is that the PSAT is just slightly easier than the SAT. So for example, if you're clicking on like this difficulty button and you're clicking on hard, the SAT exam is gonna have more of these hard style questions than the PSAT. But subject-wise, they're exactly the same. So if there are particular concepts that you just want more practice on, or you wanna drill down, or if you wanna to be even like smarter and think you're going to run out of the resources, what you can do is you can come to this PSAT tool, start by practicing here, and then once you feel comfortable, you can move over to the SAT questions, which are probably like 10 to 15% harder. Don't be super surprised if you're going through all of these questions and you notice a little bit of overlap between the PSAT and the SAT, but the fact that you have some more questions to work with on the same topics is just going to be valuable to you as you're going through your practice. These first two resources are going to be like your go-to staples for studying, but now we can start getting into some of the more niche things to really get your score over that 1500, 1550 threshold. I think the SAT Prep Black Book is honestly one of the most underrated prep materials. The whole point of this book is that it's meant to change the way that you view the SAT so that you can think more like the test makers. I can just tell you the main takeaway of the book right here. What they're trying to explain is this idea that the SAT is a standardized test. There are predictable patterns that show up every time you take the exam, and regardless of how you feel about a particular question or whether it feels hard or easy, every question has an objectively correct answer. And so it basically dives deeper into test taking technique, how you can eliminate answers, how you can figure out what the correct one is based on other clues in the problem. I feel like compared to all the resources that are out there, this one is just unique and really emphasizing that test taking technique side that no one else really tends to focus their time on. I went onto Amazon and literally saw someone selling a used version of this book for like $6 with free shipping. Hello? At the end of the day, if you just want another perspective on your test taking technique, as well as good like actual strategies to reduce any test anxiety, be calm, avoid careless mistakes in the moment, this is just a great resource to check out. Now let me make this clear. Can you find YouTube videos going over these same techniques? Yes. Absolutely, hands down. But the way that I like to see it is imagine the difference between watching a TikTok about studying for the SAT and a full-length YouTube video. So now imagine the difference between watching an SAT video, which is likely designed for viewer engagement and clickbait and just says things to get you along so the video can get pushed in the algorithm, and an actual textbook designed for the exam. The textbook maker doesn't really care whether or not you're engaged on every page. They're just gonna give you the best advice that they can. And when even the Kindle version is less than 20 bucks on Amazon, you have nothing to lose. Let's be real. Dropping thousands of dollars on SAT prep classes in 2025 is kind of wild. These courses usually just recycle generic tips you can find in any YouTube video these days. If you're aiming to quickly elevate your score, what would be actually useful is targeted one-on-one guidance. That's where Wyzant, the sponsor of today's video, comes in. I actually used Wyzant in high school, so partnering with them now feels like it's coming full circle. It's a platform that connects you with expert tutors who specialize in the exact areas you want to improve. So whether it's mastering the reading section or conquering some tricky math problems, you can find a tutor that fits your needs and budget. Wyzant also isn't just an SAT platform. They offer tutoring from AP exams to SAT prep, literally whatever you need at whatever price you want. I personally used it for Spanish homework help. And here's the best part. Wyzant has a good fit guarantee, which means your first hour with a new tutor is risk-free. If you're not satisfied, you don't pay. If you're ready to elevate your studies, you can book your first tutoring session at a discount by clicking the link in the description. Thank you to Wyzant for sponsoring this video. I can't call this guide complete without at least mentioning Khan Academy. To be fully honest, if you watch like old SAT tips videos, you might see people like low-key just glazing Khan Academy, because on the paper SAT, they used to have a deal with College Board that basically just made them like the go-to resource for preparing. But ever since the DSAT rolled out, the amount Khan Academy has to offer has reduced, but I wouldn't go anywhere near saying that it's bad for prep. It's just different. So let's talk about what the best use case is. On their website, they offer you two like complete courses for you to prepare. One's gonna be for math and one's gonna be for reading writing. Very simply, this is like an extension to the question bank that we talked about, except this is a lot more focused on honing in on specific skills. Let's just go ahead and take a look at this. Right now, I'm just on the Khan Academy DSAT like website page. We can scroll down here and you see these two main courses, right? One for math and then another one here for reading. So for example, let's say that you want to focus on SAT grammar practice. We click on this and then boom, it takes you to the main page. As we scroll down, our first lesson is on subject-verb agreement. Right here, you have like the actual like reading lesson, right? So you can scroll through, read this. If we go back, you also have like a video guide that you can go ahead and take a look at. And once you know how to do these, you can just click on like the up next exercise, and then you can go ahead and do practice questions. Now imagine this was like an area that you were struggling with. On your practice test, you were getting a bunch of questions wrong here. You can keep going through each of these practice sets, and then you can go through, learn a little bit more, second quiz, keep going, third quiz, and then they have a little unit test at the end. The thing I like about Khan Academy is it's just more dynamic. You have more resources to actually like learn these concepts, and they really help you drill down on these concepts. Nobody's saying that you have to go through the entire Khan Academy course and do everything they're offering, but for those specific areas that you're struggling in, I think this is a great way to really patch up those holes, and that is the secret to getting a good score on an SAT. Every exam is not independently that different from the next, so if you can figure out where you went wrong on one test, fix those mistakes, the likelihood that you're going to score higher on the next just increases and increases. Next up, we have the McElroy Tutoring PDF archive. This is an archive website with a ton of old SAT and ACT backtests. The thing about McElroy is that they have a bunch of paper versions of the DSAT, which are basically versions of the exam that were made for people with accommodations who needed to take it on paper versus like the digital test. All of these are uploaded as PDFs to the website that you can actually use to practice. But there is overlap between these and the Bluebook practice exams, like it says directly on the first paragraph of the website. Please read this introduction before you go around using this resource. You don't want to accidentally do these practice exams and then ruin the best Bluebook ones that you've been saving. This is specifically beneficial for those of you who have already burned through the Bluebook tests, burned through the SAT question bank, and just want extra material that's actually official and comes from College Board to really drill down on. Keep in mind that a lot of the resources here were originally designed for the old SAT format. You can pick and choose what works here for you. There's no obligation to go do a bunch of like old, outdated SAT practice tests, but a lot of the top scorers I talk to use this as an extra resource to get additional reps in and also improve their testing stamina. For any of you guys who feel like the 5,000 plus questions we've gone over in the last couple resources just aren't enough, here you go. DigitalSAT.ai is another absolute sleeper tool. To be fully honest, I honestly thought this was another SAT prep scam where they have all these great resources, but they're just behind like a ridiculous paywall. But if you go to their website, they literally let you take their SAT practice tests for free. You don't need an account or anything. You can go straight to their website, click begin test, and it will start the test and the timer right there. They have like 4 full-length mock tests and then also individual tests for just like the hard reading, writing, and math questions that you can go through. They also have mini exams for SAT vocabulary and grammar. I feel like all of these are just great SAT prep options if you're aiming for that top score band, really trying to bridge the gap from like 1500 to 1550 or even beyond that. Okay, until this point in the video, I've basically tried to keep every resource like as free and accessible as possible. Now let's go ahead and start talking about a couple of the textbooks. Nothing too crazy, but a couple of textbooks that might be worth your money to invest in if you're specifically looking to improve certain things about your current SAT score. I think if you're struggling with something like SAT grammar or reading comprehension, which are very common, it's great to start with YouTube videos, but there's only so many examples, so much depth that you can get into. When you get a textbook filled with literally hundreds of practice questions, examples, strategies to work with, it's just going to be so much more effective than any 15-minute YouTube video, and it's worth the investment. Rapid fire, I'll just give you my favorite ones, and you could probably buy all of these used for like less than 50 bucks. College Panda SAT Math, I think it's geared towards top scorers, and I really like that. You should be aiming to get consistent 800s on your exam in SAT Math. If you want a 1500 plus score, that should be non-negotiable. I think everyone can do it. It just takes time in practice, but that math growth happens so much quicker than reading, writing, and so it should be your first focus area. Next, we have the Erica Meltzer books for SAT grammar and reading. I think both of these are fantastic. They're really intuitive. People love them in general. Just get what you need. If you're only struggling with the grammar and reading comprehension is fine. Don't go buying both textbooks. Just get the one that's useful for you. I know personally, I always struggled with learning like SAT grammar rules, especially for commas, right? Comma splices and stuff. That's why like I learned mine from the Princeton Review textbook, which is why I'll always have like a little soft spot for it. I don't feel like their strategies for like reading or math are really that good. I feel like they just try to overly dumb down some of it, which makes you lose out on the ability to actually score really high. But the way that they simplified that grammar section specifically for like punctuation, it's just so intuitive. If you don't even want to buy the book, just see if you can find like an online explanation that covers the same thing. Princeton Review might even publish it themselves. If there's any resources that you guys love that I missed, leave them in the comment section, and that way other people who are taking the exam can come back, see that, and then go on to get their dream scores as well. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to follow and DM me on Instagram. I'm happy to help. This has been your boy Pratik. Peace.